For years, people have spotted religious figures in the most random of places. Overseas, one man contacted a Dutch website, claiming the face of Jesus appeared in his Kit Kat bar after taking a bite. He even claimed the apparition appeared on a Good Friday. However, it wasn't enough to spark too much attention. Someone commented that it actually looked more like Darth Vader. Regardless, the owner of the Kit Kat bar probably should have hung on to it. Religious apparitions in food can be pretty lucrative. The image of the Virgin Mary appeared on a grilled cheese sandwich in Florida. Back in 1994, Diane Dizer bit into her sandwich and saw her face looking back at her. For over 10 years it was kept in a plastic box, doing nothing else to preserve it. She sold the decade-old moldy sandwich to GoldenPalace.com. They took it on a world tour, ultimately auctioning it off for charity, pulling in $28,000 on eBay. But a grilled cheese sandwich and a Kit Kat bar are more of a novelty than anything. However, if one of those same images were to appear on something like a door, or even a glass window for example, suddenly it no longer becomes a novelty, but to some, a miracle. Across the country there have been several reports of people showing up to various homes to pray in front of all kinds of different doors, like closets and even a garage door. In Minersville, Pennsylvania, spectators from all over, modern-day pilgrims, gather on this street because a reflection of light appears, some say is the Virgin Mary.
They see
Mary, definitely. It's scary though.
Another common place for a religious symbol to pop up, like Mother Mary, is on a window. It seems she enjoys showing herself in glass, where Jesus is usually found in the wood grain of someone's door, but the two can be seen just about anywhere else imaginable. But what is actually going on here? What are they really looking at? To better understand those questions, I decided to see for myself. Where I live in Massachusetts, there have been a couple of religious apparitions that have appeared at hospitals in 2 different locations. Closest to me was the one in Milton, Massachusetts. So I jumped on the highway and headed south of Boston to get an up-close look at what some people are calling a miracle. You see, back in the summer of 2003, thousands of people gathered here to get a look at the window in the office building behind the Milton Hospital. Word had spread about an image that appeared, some say resembles the Virgin Mary. It was first noticed by patients and employees, and in one weekend alone, 25,000 people came to catch a glimpse as the parking lot filled up with spectators. The Milton Hospital was a busy place back then. An estimated 50,000 people visited over the course of several months. To handle all the traffic, security was hired, and a tarp was hung over the window. The parking lot today isn't anywhere near as full anymore. The Milton Miracle, as it would later be called, was almost 10 years ago now, but there's still a row of candles and different flowers arranged at the bottom of the window, suggesting that at least a few people probably still stop by during the week. But what is it they're seeing up in that window on the 3rd floor, and what happened to make it so noticeably different from the rest? The Associated Press reported that 5 years before it started attracting an audience of believers, skeptics, and the curious alike, a seal broke in the window, turning the glass a blotchy white discoloration. One hospital worker said initially it just looked like a dirty window. But over time, years of rain and rough New England winters caused major moisture and condensation to seep into the glass, creating what we see today. A seal can break for a couple different reasons. It could either be moisture, causing the seal to deteriorate from sitting in water, or it could happen because of too much heat from direct sun exposure. The heat causes the panes to expand and contract, which weakens the seals until they develop a crack and allow moist air in. It's a common reason why most companies have to change insulated glass. When installed properly, windows with a seal actually have a low percentage rate of failure, but there's still a good chance that with the more windows there are, that one will eventually break. This one behind the eye clinic of all places just happens to be the lucky one. Even back in 2003, the news had reported that the image was caused by a broken window seal, but it still wasn't enough to deter believers who saw this as a miracle. Some people see Jesus, while others see Mother Mary, more commonly the Madonna image. Either way, most believers agree it was a sign from God. But was it? Surprisingly, for a little skepticism, we have to look no further than to a local reverend who said, "Let's get out the Windex," reminding us to be skeptical, saying you can believe it if you want, and that you don't have to believe it either. Furthermore, the Archdiocese of Boston in July 2003 declared the apparition was a natural phenomenon, condensed moisture in a window, and not a miracle. Their statement seemed to help as the crowds began to dwindle down to what just must be a few visitors per week. Today the window is even cloudier than it was back then, along with one of the bottom corners smashed in, causing a crack to run up the middle of the window. Now, I was one of the visitors, so what do I think? Did I see anything up there on the 3rd floor? When I got to the hospital, I noticed the window right away and pulled up. I knew the story, so I was already predisposed to the Mother Mary image in the glass. However, I wondered if that wasn't the case, then what would I have seen? Just walking by the window, I probably wouldn't even think twice about it. But now, I wanted to know what people thought who were given no prior information saw when they looked at this exact photo. I showed the picture to about 20 different people. Not a lot, but enough to give us an idea of what people think. It was almost an even split of males to females, different ages, including friends, family, co-workers, and even a few people I'd never met before. Of the 20 people I asked, none of them said they saw Mother Mary. I did get 2 people who saw Jesus, though. Interestingly enough, both saw other images as well. One person saw Kurt Cobain and/or Jesus, leaving the possibility open for either one, while the other saw Jesus as a whole, but also saw an alien on the left side and shoulders and ribs on the top of the window. And that wasn't the only alien sighting we had. Someone else saw one too, more specifically, E.T. But the most common answer from my little survey was either nothing at all or a generic description of a person or a figure. Some of the other interesting answers include a baby in the womb, dude with a dead bear head on his head, a demon guy with a goatee, and a Gustav Klimt print. So what's the point of all this? The point is you see what you want to see. When you look at a distorted image, the natural tendency is to try and make sense of what it is you're looking at. It's most common to try and find a face or a figure, because that's the easiest to recognize, and it's also one of the first things we can distinguish at birth. Finding faces in images and distorted patterns is called Pareidolia, and for another example of it, you have to look no further than the Milton Hospital chimney, where some people again see Mary, Jesus, and even a cross. What happens is your brain scrambles to make an image that makes sense to you, kind of like when you're a kid just staring at the clouds. Your imagination and personality will take care of the rest. At that point, it becomes like one of those Rorschach ink blot tests. If you're a very religious person, you just might see God or Mother Mary, while a music lover might just see their favorite musician. But it's not fair to judge anyone for what they believe. There will always be a difference of opinion, even if the Archdiocese of Boston comes right out and says it's not a miracle. The local Reverend Harvey Egan said it best when he said, "Supposing somebody went to see the window and came back and drove over to their worst enemy and said, 'I'm sorry,' that to me would be the real miracle. Judging by the current state of the window, it may only have a few miracles left to give." Now, you've seen the window and you've heard the story, so what do you think? Miracle or moisture?